Okay, so there's our guy right there. Okay, so we're starting to open up Home for the Holidays. So we're going to select our Home for the Holiday folder. Then we're going to go to Designs. Then you're going to pick your format, and that's EXP on a Bernina. Then we're going to go to number 1, the center motif, and we're going to do these all numerically. So let's select number 1, the house. Now you touch the needle in the lower right corner of your screen because you need to make sure you're at first stitch. And I need to see a number 1 right here. That's how I know you're at first stitch. Then you're going to take an arrow-shaped post-it note, like the directions say, and mark the needle position. It's right where the hole is, on your grid. Perfect. Now we're going to take the hoop off and we're going to go hoop the fabric according to the directions. So let's. Is that your right? Then you have to rotate it to your left. So rotate the fabric to your left. So the fabric is it's specific, so you have to make sure that you rotate it. So we have the top right here, and it says the top is rotated to the left, so the fabric is positioned correctly. Then let's go to the next direction, and it says hoop the fabric with the arrow on the grid. That's this guy, pointing to the crosshair 6 inches below and 12 inches to the right of center. So if you look right here, here's your center, isn't it? So we're going to go 6 down and then 12 over. So that's how you do it. 6 down, and you just look at those directions. 6 down, 12 over. So 6 down, 12 over, and right there's where we're hooping it. So this line, so what you're going to do is when you hoop it, this arrow can be in the neighborhood of where you want to be, within like a 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, but hoop it straight. So get a line that you drew right under the grid, and that's how you want to.
So the important thing to that is it's not necessarily the center of the hoop; it's that first stitch.
It's never the center. On my designs, it's never the center. It's always first stitch.
Got it.
That's the most important part.
Okay, so.
Okay, so the easiest way to hoop this is to try to leave your hoop right where it's supposed to be. Fold this fabric over and just hold that right here. Try and hold with that hand. Now with this hand, lift this up and over and bring this all the way over so these two kiss. Kiss this with that. Okay, and then we're going to we're going to fit them right in because you're a little high here, so let's move it down here, but keep these together. Now, you can release this, push this down, and let's open this up. Keep that in, and so you're just trying to push it down in. So now you're extremely close and extremely, you didn't have to fight it at all. Now, if you put 2 fingers on the inside of your hoop and a thumb on the out, you have total control of that hoop with these three digits. So your line is slightly to this side, isn't it? So I want you to gently hold that, and with this hand, pull the fabric and push your thumb against this, and gently bring your fabric over. That's it exactly. Hold that down. Now, while you hold that one, I'm just going to ease. See how the movements are easy. They're not. And then I want you to bring this down. So hold the hoop with this hand, and use this hand to pull that fabric down just even, Steven. Yep, that looks pretty good. Excellente. Now, here's the thing. It's time for you to hold. You never take your hands off the black. Never hold the grid. It's all about the black. So the thing you need to do is to tighten the hoop. But if I let go, highly likely this is going to pop out. So here's how you hoop when you're one person. Take this arm, put your forearm right here. Now reach it, so you're holding it here and here. Now you have this hand free. Lift that up, tighten it up. Turn it to the right till you hear a clicking. Excellent. Release, and you're done. Okay. That was perfect. Then we'll remove this. Now we're going to go attach this to the module. Okay, this is Home for the Holidays, and this is the front side of it. We're going to flip it over to the back side, and this is how I'm going to remove my stabilizer. First of all, I have you use 2 layers of stabilizer. Make sure when you remove it 1 layer at a time. Never try and grab them both and rip 2 layers. So this one has a basting box in it, so as I'm ripping, it's kind of going against that basting box. I want you to know you don't need to get rid of every single solid piece of stabilizer. Let me move off this little group right here, and then I'll go to my next one. As I'm taking this off, if I have a delicate part, like just a straight stitch, then sometimes I'll just put my hand on that so that I hold the stitches down as I'm tearing it away so I don't accidentally rip the stitches. Mostly that, and of course I have this little skinny line because again I have this basting stitch line so I can rip right against it. Now I'm just going to let you know this is all I would rip. You can go in here and do this later, but you know, during class when we're trying to get going, this is all I'm going to do. And then when I'm going back and watching TV and relaxing, I can take my tweezers and come in here. And I'm only going to pick out, like I would not pick out this. This is too tiny. I would not pick that out. I probably won't pick that out. This is big enough that I would pick it out. And I would probably pick out this one and this one. Not picking, I'm not going to pick out any of those. Not necessary. Just get the stuff that has a flap. If you can get to it because there's a flap on it, remove that. Otherwise, I would leave it in because remember when you block your quilt and you soak it in water, and then before it dries, all of this when you soak it is going to be very soft. It's going to lose its integrity on the stiffness, and that will be all you really need to remove. So that's how to remove your tearaway stabilizer. Okay, we're going to bring in the second design for Home for the Holidays. We just finished the first design. So when you're done, it's going to go back to this screen right here. So when you're ready to switch out, touch your folder in the upper right corner, the top folder of these 4. I'm going to go to number 2. It drops in. Make sure you touch the needle because you need to see a number 1 down here. And then you're going to pick up your arrow-shaped Post-it note. This one's already been marked, but you're going to lay it right down where the needle intersects the stitch plate. So that's how we're going to mark it. Now we're going to go hoop it. Okay, so now we're ready to hoop number 2. The directions are going to tell you that number 2 starts at the bottom of this house. See how there's an edge to the blue, right there's the bottom, and it's going to end here. So you have to be able to walk this little line right here. So here's the arrow marked on my grid. I'm going to take my grid out and I'm going to place this, so come right in here. The arrow is going to point to the bottom of that corner of the house. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that my grid, now watch this if you can see it up here, I want to make sure my grid is even, the black line on my grid is parallel to the line that I drew. So here's another line that I drew. So I'm trying to get my line straight. That's the most important part. Now I want you to look up here really close. You can see that I am not at the edge of that house because it's more important to be straight. And then when I hoop it, I'll just move my needle over to the edge of the house. It's more important to hoop straight than it is to have this dead on that mark. So you always want to hoop that straight. So I'm just gonna line this up like this. Now I'm just gonna show you how I put this under. I'm going to fold this fabric over this, and I'm going to hold my fabric right here. I'm gonna slide my hoop in, and I'm gonna bring these 2 edges together. And that helps me hoop straight. I'm gonna open it up, and now my hoop is already in right here. And let's look really close, and you can see I'm about 1.25 inches too high. So I'm just simply gonna pull my fabric up, holding it down here. This is the trick. Hold that inner black hoop in, just barely move it up. Okay, I'm in the neighborhood, and I only have to be in the neighborhood. I don't have to be perfect. Now I'm gonna check my lines. So I'm gonna scoot my fabric over because this line needs to be straight. I'm a whole grid off. So I'm just going to gently pull my fabric at the top and push my finger against the black hoop to keep my hoop inside. And then I'm going to press it down and see where it is. I would still like to come over just a little bit over here because that's not, ooh, that looks very good. Okay, my line is straight. My needle is in the neighborhood. My Post-it note is in the neighborhood. I'm a little high, but it doesn't matter. I have plenty of room to move it in the hoop when I get it over there. So I'm going to look at this one more time. I think that's it. Now notice how I'm holding it. I'm holding it with my forearm is holding the grid down here. My hand is holding it down here. I flip this up and I have a free hand to lock that in. And when you hear that loud sound, that's it. Don't keep doing it. That's as tight as it goes. Then I'm going to remove my grid and we're going to attach the hoop to the module. And make sure if you have fabric on the right side, this is the right side of my hoop, you need to fold this up and roll it and clip it so it doesn't get caught. All right, let's go hoop it up. All right, so I have reattached the hoop and now I need to line it up. My needle needs to move so I can get right to this corner because as you can see, I'm like 1/4 of an inch above and maybe 3/8 above and 1/4 of an inch too high. So I'm gonna actually do this in pinpoint because it's so easy and I'd like to show you how to do pinpoint. I'm gonna touch the pencil, the editing pencil to release the screen. I'm gonna go to the big I for information. The second icon down on the right is pinpoint. And the first thing I'm gonna check is, because we're gonna use free point, which is this rectangle shaped butterfly. Now, this box cannot be selected. If it's selected, it looks yellow. I do not want it selected, so I'm turning it off. And when you turn it off, the first stitch is always marked on the screen and it's indicated by a circle with a crosshair. It's right here. I don't know if you can see it, so I'm gonna zoom in. And this is how I do it. I zoom in 5 times. 1, wait, because it zooms in. Now do 4 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can see that circle with the crosshair possibly a little bit better. So you can see that that is at the end of this straight line that's coming down. When I activate pinpoint, that goes away. Watch, I'm gonna activate, the circle goes away. So that's why I wanna zoom in all the way so I can see where my first stitch is, because that's the first stitch of the design and that's what we line up by. Activate by touching it and touch at the bottom of that line. Let me get my needle up, there we go. Now you can see I'm not there, so I need to go over a little bit. Okay, I had to get my needle up, there we go. Now you can see it's there. Now let's say I touched here, that would be wrong too. So I want to retouch, just retouch, don't drag it, just retouch where you'd like that to go. This indicates the first stitch of my design, and in the instructions you'll see a green arrow pointing to that. Now that is, once you get your marker on correctly, let's go look at the needle. My needle is off by quite a bit, so I'm going to use both my zigzag and my straight stitch multifunction knobs, and I'm going to get my needle down exactly at the corner of that house. Let me get my needle up a little bit here. Okay, let me test that out. I'm just a hair off. I think that's it, perfect. So when it's perfect, needle up all the way. On the screen, you're gonna touch set. Now watch what happens when I touch set. This marker is gonna get a yellow circle inside. Set, yellow circle. That's how I know it's set. Now I'm gonna zoom out all the way, because the placement line in my directions is this line right here. The bottom of it is the first stitch. The top of it is the last stitch. So I'm gonna touch somewhere in the top area with my finger and drop a marker. Now I'm gonna zoom in once and I can see I'm not there. So now I need to touch the top of it. Now a lot of people like to just touch the top. I don't do that. I touch way up here in the white, and the marker is gonna go to the closest piece of embroidery. So watch what happens when I touch way up here. It goes to the closest piece of embroidery, which is the top of that line. That's a great way to make sure you're right at it. Now let's look back at the needle. My needle is, well, darn it, it's perfect. Okay, so a lot of times it's not perfect, but so if it wasn't perfect, then I would use one of my knobs. Now I'm gonna have you shoot this whole thing if you can right here. And this is what I want you to see, and I'm gonna back up my screen. This is the important part to know about pinpoint. Look at your 2 markers. I zoomed out so you can see both of them. And this is what you're looking for. Are your markers mostly vertical, going up and down, or are your markers mostly horizontal, going side to side? These, of course, are more vertical. If your markers are vertical, on the second point, you can only use the opposite direction. Now this is a 700. The top knob is a zigzag knob. That means it goes left and right. The bottom knob is the straight stitch knob. It only goes up and down. I can't go up and down because that will resize my design. I have to go the opposite direction of my markers. So I can only use this. And if I needed to move it left or right, which is what I would need to do, this would be the knob that I would use. So remember, on pinpoint, on the second marker, you can only use one knob because one knob rotates, the other knob resizes. Because my markers are mostly vertical, I can only use the zigzag knob. The problem is I'm actually quite perfect. So let's go down over here, and I'm just going to go down here and test it out. Perfect. So see, this is another thing. I can sew without thread in this screen, because see, I can touch it over here in the white anywhere, and I can move my needle to see where is that going to hit, and they all are just perfect because they're all hitting right on the edge of it. And so I don't have to leave the marker up here at the very top. I don't have to do that. I can actually, my marker can go all the way down here so they're on top of each other. As long as I have already gone to the second marker and it's perfect, it doesn't matter where my marker is. I can leave it way up there, in the middle, or on top of the first one. The trick is I have to set it. You can see it's white. I have to have 2 yellow markers. So I'm going to hit set, and I have 2 yellow markers. That's how you do it. I've rotated my diamond to be perfect, except it really didn't need to be rotated. But if we did, this is how we would have done it. Let's get out of here and release the screen. Big I for information. The needle in the lower right corner returns us to embroidery. Now we're at color 1. And in my directions, it's going to say, sew color 1 without thread. We did it in pinpoint. We walked all of these points in pinpoint, so we know that all of these lined up. So we're going to immediately go to color number 2. We're going to put on our brown thread. We're going to lift up this corner of our hoop and slide some stabilizer right in here with 505 on the back, and then we'll just rub it down so it sticks, and we're ready to rock and roll.